Gonzalo, he's a CrowdFarming CEO if you haven't met him yet, made a public announcement that we're not a customer-centric company. And that caused a lot of debates internally. And now we want to make...
Especially from the marketing team.
Exactly. I didn't want to point anyone.
Don't say that.
And now we want to open the debate externally to all of you, and especially with all of you in the table. Each one of you is looking at this issue of the agro-food supply chain from different perspectives, and I think that's what's going to make this roundtable very interesting. We have Philippe. Philippe is currently agriculture project manager at AlVelAl Foods. He's working on a project to help European farmers transition to regenerative agriculture, and meanwhile he's raising awareness among consumers about the environmental and health benefits of sustainably produced food. We have Luis. Luis was born and raised in Mexico, where he studied civil engineer, and after working in different companies in Mexico and Latin America in the renewable energy sector, he decided to get closer to agriculture, his childhood passion. For the last 3 years, he has been involved in agriculture and rural development projects in Africa, Mexico, and now Spain. And after completing a master's degree in organic food agriculture, he joined AlVelAl Foods as general manager. Together with AlVelAl Association, they're working towards the restoration of more than 1 million hectares in the southeast of Spain. And now you're trying to bring those products to the consumer too, right? We have Magdalena. I believe she's one of the most activist persons we have inside CrowdFarming. Magdalena is cultural anthropologist and Spanish philologist. During her studies, she did volunteer work with refugee women and helped out in cultural center for several years. After moving to Spain, she worked as a translator, a team leader, and a project manager. And she joined CrowdFarming in 2017, so when it started. To shape the customer service team. She's head of 20 people team, giving support to 7 languages. I have to point that inside CrowdFarming customer service team is meant to make a lot of training and awareness into the consumers, not just solving incidents, right? And we have Gonzalo, restless farmer, with little idea of agriculture in the beginning. He threw himself into growing oranges and selling them directly through the internet in 2010. Together with his brother, Gabi, who's around here.
Solving the
they not only managed to recover a family orchard, but also became local success story, generating agricultural employment. Then moving also to this olive orchard that we're seeing. Thanks to their agriculture and e-commerce experience within CrowdFarming, they added a link between teams working for the real world and technological world. So let's get into the consumer topic. So we see customers being blamed a lot of times of consuming without limits. Yesterday we talked about the rise of e-commerce and brands being pointed at because they are polluting too much and about greenwashing and not respecting human rights. Meanwhile, public organizations can orchestrate banning or incentivizing. We talked a bit about this with certain limits, certain practices, but of course this comes with an impact in the economy as we saw. Who from your point of view is responsible for taking this first step so we can stop blaming each other all the time and tirar balones fuera, as we say in Spain?
Okay, so I will start. I think in CrowdFarming this is one of the biggest questions because, as you all know, we are like cutting the supply chain. So we are like 3 parties: it's the farmer, the CrowdFarmer, and as we already said, the environment. So I think the first step. It's very complicated because blaming each other, I think people love blaming each other because it's very easy. So in my experience in CrowdFarming, when we started this, one thing that was really surprising to me is that we, as an alternative food producer, they are blaming the alternatives. So they are not going to the supermarket and blaming the supermarket. So it's very strange for me to see that people are like blaming the alternatives. So they are blaming the good ones and they are not so into asking themselves, okay, what's my, I'm part of the puzzle. So I think there's a big aspect that, okay, the consumer has to take steps, but I think there's a very big, very heavy duty on the consumer to be responsible for every decision. So I think we talked about this yesterday, and I think it's not that easy to answer who should take the first steps, because I think the consumer, there's lots of limits within consumerism. So I think when I think of crowdfarming, there are so many people already very conscious about their impact, but it's very dangerous to like it's like a little bubble, I think. So we are maybe losing the point of view of what's happening out there, and I think they're, even though they are German, because I'm from Germany and I'm a lot into the debates, the social debates in Germany. So I think they're, it's like very onto the consumer, and this is why there's very pressure, a high pressure on the consumer to do it right. So this is like the worst thing, because you're in a position you have to do something, but maybe it's not only the consumer. So yeah, there are lots of parts. Maybe you want to say.
I think more than like who's responsible, I think the question for me is who can contribute the most right now. There are a lot of actors involved, and it's clear that we should all sit down at the table and work together on solutions, because it involves all of us. Producers probably need to be less risk averse, willing to change the way that they produce food. Because the people dealing with the DIT food right now are the early adopters, they're the pioneers. You know, like for this to have a real impact, we need to involve the mainstream farmers. Consumers need to be made more aware about the health and environmental benefits of regenerative produce. Investors need to get more involved in this space, agri-food businesses as well, and of course policymakers. There needs to be an overall framework that encourages sustainable production. But I'd say at this moment in time, I think the greatest contribution could be made by retailers, the big retail companies. There's companies like CrowdFarming who are doing a great job, but that's just right now a small percentage of the population. But if we get the big, fast-moving good services companies, they can make a real impact. And one of the reasons they can do that is because they have the connection from farm to fork. They can control the whole supply chain, sustainability, so they can sell to consumers in the grocery store market with a label, however they want to do it with traceability, saying this product comes from this farm and it has been produced in this way, and this is the nutrient density or whatever of this product that you have in the store. So they have tremendous control over production and over sale. I think there's a study in the UK that the fast-moving good companies control about 60% of production in the country. So I'd like to see them more involved, and unfortunately, up until now, they've been conspicuously absent.
Well, to build upon that, I think, I totally agree on searching for the responsible or blaming someone is not really where we need to focus. So again, it's trying to find a solution, and I think a solution is collaboration. You can, as we are part of the problem together, consumers, companies, organizations, governments, we need to work together, each one on the side that they can work. I think speaking for first as a person, as consumers, I think we need to be aware of what we do, and I think the people that work in the sustainability world are more and more aware of a lot of things, but then we depend on how we can change the mass, and I think there's where the responsibility of companies, organizations, and governments comes to, like, what information are we providing the consumers, and why are they consuming the way they are consuming. So I think it should stop the blaming and more start on working on solutions, because we need to solve it. We don't need to find the one that it's guilty.
Yeah, just to add one thing, like for example, customer-centric companies, I think they suffer more the criticisms of the consumers, not of the final consumers, because they drive the company always with customer journey, customer service, and so on. But being a mission-driven company, I mean, you need to hear the criticisms of the customers, but you should not let them block you, no? Because if you are always trying to do what the customer is asking you, maybe you are not also listening to other of your cluster clients. No, we have like 3 clients that you were mentioning. Our clients are customers, of course, but at the same level, the environment and the farmers. No? So we should listen the 3 of them. No? Yeah.
So, all of you were, I think, joined by the let's stop blaming and let's start constructing. And I would like to dive into that part on what's in for the consumer at the moment to buy or behave sustainably. Because the answer I get for many people around me, it's like, what I do is not going to have an impact. It's up to 3 big companies, 10 big companies, 2 big and 2 big countries, and it's not on me. So, and those who believe their personal impact matters, they say, I choose and I win because I'm doing what I believe in, that it's buying sustainably and having an impact for the farmers. But really, for me as a consumer, what is the benefit I get? Is it peace of mind, or is it something else as a product, as a service, as a lifestyle of behaving sustainably and with impact in mind?
I think that there's a general benefit that we all feel when we do something good for the environment. Maybe, I mean, there's polar bears in the North Pole, and I feel good knowing that they're there, even though I'm never going to visit them or probably see them, but there is some sort of very abstract good feeling about just simply knowing that. But with regenerative farming, one of the emphases, of course, is buying close to home. So if you're able to buy something from a producer that lives very close by, you know that you're improving his livelihood, you're building community, creating wealth in your area, improving the environment in your area. So there is a more direct benefit. But I think that what we're going to have to do now is, in addition to the emphasis on the environment, is to focus on the health benefits of regenerative produce. Because I think we've seen with organic farming that maybe 8% of the population, depending on the country, will buy food because it's good for the environment. But if we can convey the message that, in addition, regenerative produce is healthier, that if you eat a regeneratively produced peach or grass-fed beef, you can get 10 times the vitamins or nutritional value you get from its conventional counterpart, then we can reach a much bigger audience. Maybe 40% will be interested in regenerative produce. So this is a benefit that I think that we should start to communicate to consumers in their studies that are proving that.
We at CrowdFarming are very careful to communicate about health because we haven't seen a lot of studies yet that prove that organic or regenerative products are better for your health. Is this coming? Is this here? And can we freely say that organic and regenerative is better for your health?
Well, EIT Food has done a study, which we haven't published yet, but looking at grass-fed beef, and we're looking at the fatty acid composition, and it's much healthier than what we've seen in conventional beef. We looked at 16 different livestock operations here in Spain. And in the US, I know they're developing technology. It's called something called a nutrient density meter, and I think it'll be really revolutionary. And this is a spectrometer, which is a simple device, but it's connected to a database. And a farmer or a consumer can go into a store and scan a carrot, and it'll tell you what the vitamin D is in this carrot, like the 10 most important indicators for a specific produce. So that's a tremendous tool. So if a consumer can go and measure a carrot and say this one has 10 times as much vitamin D as the other one, and it only costs 20% more, well, maybe I'll buy this carrot. So there's some interesting technology that's becoming available, and so hopefully that'll be a game changer.
But you can say that. I mean, you can say that organic. I don't know for the maybe there is not enough studies or some type of studies that says or that proves that organic food is more health for the consumer. I completely believe it, but I can assure you that it's much more health for the farmer. Okay, because the farmer that is using pesticides, I mean, is already proof. I don't know how many demands have, so it's you can freely say it.
Yeah, but again, we're saying that this is an impact for the farmer. We're looking into what is that impact for. Yeah, but maybe not of our product yet. Luis, on your side with AlVelAl Foods, how is it? What are your challenges communicating every? I was there recently, and it's magic what's happening over there. What are your challenges communicating this to the consumer, and how are you putting your product out there apart from crowd farming? Because I see you're working, for example, with restaurants, with hotels and things like this. How are you kind of making that move from the farm to actually people knowing it outside?
Okay, so yeah, just to quickly add something on what they were saying. Actually, there was a student in the Regeneration Academy who I met that was doing a study, and I think it's quite difficult to demonstrate like what are the impacts on health, nutrients, flavor, and so that's a very gray area right now where we are trying not to focus, and then we're going back to the part where what we are doing is telling the story of where things come from. So we are, for example, right now, almonds are seen as, okay, there's a lot of water that is used to produce almonds, or the bees are dying because of almond production, and so there are a lot of things associated with the product. And then how can you change that and then take that part of the market? So there are people that have already made a judgment on a certain product because it's the truth on the generality of the produce, but then we are communicating that at least in our territory we are doing things differently. So I think that's a part that helps us add value, and also the making people feel close to the production. So the farmers are important and are also focused. That's also why we are working with CrowdFarming, and it's super important for us, the farmer-centric point of view. And yeah, from our side, we are working with CrowdFarming, and then we're starting to build a network of other retailers that let us tell our story, because for us it's very important. Right now we are collaborating also with some restaurants in London that put, again, product, farmers, where it comes from as a very important part of their story. So how can we relate and collaborate again with the people that are kind of, let's get together with the people that have more or less the same stories to tell, and start building from that, and then impact will come, we hope.
I think you were mentioning about we need big retailers to support, but I think big retailers, big food retailers, will not support regenerative until it becomes mainstream or even commodity. Okay, because like these food big brands, they need like huge amount of ingredient of food to be able to promote one of their brands, no? So what I'm seeing is that there is a huge, whenever you go to a supermarket, all the brands that you see in a supermarket, you cannot make the relationship between these brands and the farms. So I think customers don't feel good because they don't see, they need much more information what they receive in the supermarket. What information do you get in a supermarket? Like the marketing in the packaging and the price, no? There are just like two basic things, and convenience, no? But I think the more and more customers, they to feel good, they don't look just for the flavor or for the price. They look what is the impact of their actions, no? And I think so. The first step in order to go through a more conscious consumption is to get consciousness, no? To ask yourself or start like feeling, okay, what this action makes me feel, no? Like buying oranges in a supermarket for a 1.5 euro kilo without knowing what they come from, no? So I think the traditional food supply chain is built for commodities, and commodities makes farmer lose control of what makes their product different, no? Lose control of the products, no? If you build a food supply chain based on commodities, then you are empowering supermarkets. If you build a food supply chain based on food that has a direct relationship with the origin, then you are empowering farmers.
Okay, so what I'm getting here, it's from the two sides of the story. The consumer is winning an experience and more knowledge on what they're eating. Not just an orange is not just an orange; it's all of the story behind it. When with other products, we can read it, and the farmer in the other side is trying to communicate their story. And we know some big brands, like you were saying, have the power to escalate it really quickly and communicate it with a lot of power to the consumer, but both ends are kind of losing control, right? The consumer doesn't trust it that much because it doesn't know what's behind the regenerative. Maybe if Nestle goes out with a chocolate with regenerative almonds, it kind of loses the authenticity, and farmers maybe are scared of losing that control, right? Of telling their story with platforms such as CrowdFarming. I'm going to ask from Magdalena, from your point of view on that part of consumers that you're seeing, that why do they buy through CrowdFarming? When you listen to them, you are probably the person that has spoken with more consumers in CrowdFarming. And then from the side of the farmers, have you heard any of these approaches, I'm sure, of big brands? And what's the feeling of the farmer of losing that control? Because of course that means a lot of money for them, a lot of escalating quickly, but they're kind of scared of losing that control. I want to
Yes,
explore
I
that.
think in crowdfarming there's a big difference. Ourselves, we call us president service, as you know, because I think it's like 95% of the customers, of the clients, that are very conscious already. They already took the first step or the third or fourth step to buy at crowdfarming. And I think I think Yannick told us yesterday that what is missing is the story behind this, and the time the consumer needs to understand where this comes from, and the big work behind of every project. So I think one of the biggest difference in crowdfarming is there are lots of crowd farmers who already are very into this, and very already searching for solutions, buying not only in crowd farming. We speak a lot about they want to buy local. So this is when we say, okay, we are also working with farmers in Germany, Austria, Italy, local. So this is a very good debate. But yes, because this is very interesting, because I think it's what I mentioned before, the blaming and the I am doing very good. Okay, so maybe the customer needs like approval from our side to say, okay, yes, if you buy at the farm in your little village, you are doing great. But this is a big, big, big privilege. So this is like, you're doing great. Oh, I grow my own veggies at my house, and it's okay, you're doing great, but this is not suitable for everyone. So we need to reach out to people who don't have a farmer at their side. So, but this is like what I said, like cleaning their hands, or they need to be empowered in okay, this is very great, but we have to go further. So it's okay, or it's great that you buy, but the local or seasonal food marketing is like, okay, we are not talking about the food waste. So locally there's also a lot of food waste. It's not that, okay, in Germany we don't have any issues with food waste because we buy local. This is like very
the debate, the focus is very just on one side. It's our emissions or buying local, but it's not like, okay, we have a big pool of problems. So if you pick out one thing, that's very great, but you don't have to be blind for the other things. And so at CrowdFarming, I think we need to tell the stories. And that's what the people are mad about. This is like, okay, I want to have the olive tree with my little, with my nameplate, and I want to see that there's a story behind. And the people, sometimes it's like, I talk to people that they're so into this that they, when in the German farmers, we work with cows, or they are very like, okay, our cow died and I have to explain it to my children, and they cried a lot because of the cow. It's like, okay, the people are very into it. Maybe this is also a crowdfarming bubble, I don't know, maybe not everyone is that into it, but yes, so I think this should really make a difference, and it's like education. I once read a thing that education is not filling a bucket, but setting a fire. And I think this is where we have to go, and was a big part of my work, is to educate and to communicate and to tell the people what this is about and why we don't have to get stuck on, okay, I buy organic or sustainable, because this is not enough. No. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I would just like to add that this thing about what is local, no? Like for us, it would be impossible to sell our product just in the region. Like we live in one of the poorest and depopulated areas in Spain, where people can't afford what we are asking for the prices, the prices that we are asking for the techniques that we are promoting. That's also part of this education. We need to educate these fans that we're also trying to find. Like, where are the fans that want to really be part of the regeneration of our landscape, and make them understand that the surplus that they are paying is for they are financing the transition to regenerative agriculture. That is something that they are proud of, that they are something that when they share food in a table with their friends, they can talk about. So I think that's also something very important that we're trying to search, is where are these fans that can collaborate with us and are part of our team? Like, you can help without being here in the landscape by giving your vote of consumption.
And do you think there's enough funds to finance that transitions, or we have to create them? Or, because I don't know if regenerative agriculture is, as we were saying yesterday, getting any cheaper with technology, or if it's going to stay more expensive in the long term, and we have to get more fans that are willing to pay that premium for that product.
Well, I think as every trend, there are early adopters, and these early adopters need to know this and need to know that things are going to change, but you need to start searching for these people. I'm convinced that they exist. I think there are people that are willing to help the environment, that they really care, and I think more and more. I came here and I'm moving in a social circle where everything is about this. People really discuss about this, and it's not about perfection. It's about how can we take better decisions. And then I think if we start building up and we find these early adopters, then it's going to be easier for the others to say, like, okay, people are doing this, so what's it about? Let's do it. And I think it happens with everything. It happens with technology. It happens with a lot of things. And hopefully there's where big retailers eventually, that I think they have a say on changing like big amount of hectares. How can they change it? And in the moment that they say, okay, our products are going to be produced in this way, and it's going to be a standard in their marketing prices or whatever strategies, then a lot will follow. But at least from my side and my position right now, we are searching for those fans. We are searching for these early adopters, knowing that we are at the front line. So yeah, we need to also hold that responsibility.
But maybe we shouldn't assume that regenerative farming and regenerative produce is more expensive. We're working with approximately 100 farmers, starting to see business cases, where implementing regenerative grazing practices or farming practices is cheaper. So, because right now what we're kind of reluctant or we're kind of concerned about training farmers to change the way that they produce food, saying, oh, well, there will be future benefits, you know, there maybe there'll be carbon credits, or maybe you can charge a price premium if you spend all your time, you know, developing a distribution network. Those are really unrealistic expectations for a lot of farmers. But what we can show them is, hey, that there are producers that are saving a lot of money, a lot of direct costs, because they stopped buying chemical inputs. So we have two cases that we focused on. One is a peach farm in northern Spain, and they were able to reduce their direct costs by more than 50%, simply by using less diesel, buying less herbicides, buying less mineral fertilizer, and using instead microbiology, which is much less expensive. And it didn't affect their yield. So this was an outstanding case, but these exist. And also we're seeing tremendous impact and a very quick impact with integration of livestock. So there's clear cases where we have extensive people that have extensive grazing in a farm in Andalusia, and by mob grazing, a more efficient use of the pasture land. Again, he's reduced his purchase of animal feed by a third. So you know, I think that the good news is that regenerative farming isn't necessarily more expensive, but this has to be a case by case basis.
So first, I think customers needs to know what's the real price of the food they consume, no? Because farmers, they are really good in mathematics, and what they do is, this I receive from supermarkets and this I receive from subventions. So they say, okay, the lack of price that I don't receive from supermarkets, I probably will receive from subventions, no? So in the end, if you make a thought, I mean, we as consumers are subventioning the supermarkets to buy cheaper from the farmers, no? There are 10 million farmers in Europe, and 10 supermarkets decides what by 90% of the population in Europe, no? So this is a completely broken food supply chain, no? From this part. And secondly, well, I completely agree and with you that cultivating in a more regenerative way, if you see the long term, I mean, is much more cheaper. We can prove it, no? So I mean, of course, it requires investments for the long term in capex, like for example, doing your own compost plantage, no? That it's capital intensive, but in the long term, it's like having a building and you are renewing your building or renewing your flat. In 10 years time, your building, if you have been investing in, I don't know, in better windows or in better installations, then your building will be much more efficient, no? So then you will need to pay less energy. So this happens the same with the ground. So if you are investing in the ground and not just investing in producing food, then at the end, your ground will be much more fertile.
See.
The issue of cost, and it kind of relates to what you were saying about a lot of times we're transferring the cost to the farmers, but there's a whole other issue out there, which is the externalities, right? There's a catchword nowadays, true cost accounting. So rather than perhaps paying a premium to farmers that are doing things right, maybe we should penalize farmers that are doing things wrong, and simply by internalizing all these costs, which right now consumers or the producers aren't paying for. So how much, if we incorporate, for instance, the healthcare cost, if we include the cost caused by loss of biodiversity or by contamination of our waterways. The Rockefeller Foundation did a study. If we were to incorporate all these costs, external costs, future and present, the normal food would cost 3 times as much. So the regenerative produce would be the cheapest by far. Simply by recognizing that these are the costs, and it's outrageous. I mean, like in the Mississippi River, there's in the Gulf of Mexico, there's an area called the Dead Zone, which is about the size of La Comunidad Valenciana, and where nothing grows, and it's because of all the chemical fertilizers, all the nitrates that end up there, and there's a cost. It costs $85 million because of all the fishing businesses that have been destroyed, all the industries. If that were an oil company or a construction company, imagine an oil company has an oil spill. They would have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's not a no-brainer. Well, why don't farmers that are contaminating or polluting the Gulf of Mexico, why don't they pay for it? And if they have to pay for it, they're going to have to increase their price. So.
I'm going to end up with a question with that topic that Philip introduced. What is the cost of convenience? That it's this whole topic that we've been talking about. Like, what are we sacrificing as a society for getting cheap food delivered instantly? What are we sacrificing? And kind of the pitch that you would use to convince, hey, don't order things in 2 hours. Start paying the amount that the food, that the good food, the organic food costs, and source it from a farmer that you know, or that or someone that you trust.
I will ask this question to you.
Cristina, please write that.
I don't know, maybe I will. There was one thing I thought about when you say the high number is like coming back to the blaming each other thing. I think we let out a big part, that's the governments. Maybe as you said, I'm the biggest activist in crowdfarming, but I'm in Spain, I'm living in Spain, so I can't vote here. So this is like very difficult because there's so many, as I said, heavy weight on the shoulders of the consumers to go vegan, don't fly, don't do that, don't whatever. But it's like the 100 biggest companies causing 70% of the emissions. So this is, I think we really should take care of what are our possibilities to get, to activate ourselves, to create an engagement, to be active, because I think one thing shouldn't cut another thing. So I can do, I can buy sustainable, and I can, I'm sustainable. I'm not just referring on buying organic. There are so many different types to buy sustainable, but I think we really should also be more organized with other group of people. I don't know if in Spain, the voting thing, you're very into the politics, but I think it's a very, very big opportunity. So it's not just a big problem, it's also a big opportunity. And in Germany, we have a green party. So this is, I don't know if it, but I mean, we are all in the same boat as we heard yesterday. So I think we can't cut out the government of this. I think to come back to the question, we are losing, as we already lost the touch of the relationship between nature, farming, soil, and who am I? Where am I coming from? I think this is a big issue because this is the very highest cost of I want to have a delivery in 2 hours, and yesterday I wanted to talk to Victor from Trucksters because of the Globos. I really love Globo. We have to talk about this because I don't really get the concept, but I think it's very like, we are all in the same, and I think it's, we don't have any, it's like, we need to attack one thing, we need to attack 2 things, 3 things, and I need to start from myself to doing better. But I think the highest cost is that in long term and medium term, as you can't see, it's like we are very on short term solutions. So I think this is the biggest. We have to open the horizon and say, okay, in between 10, 15 years, we will have a much bigger problem than we already have here. So, but this is all about, if you don't have to face this, and if you don't have to, if nobody tells nothing about this, why do you have to why do you have to ask yourself? So you need like, I don't know how to say it, but you need somebody who tells you, who informs you, because I'm so happy within my comfort zone. Why do I have to go out of this and ask what's my my part of this in this big puzzle? So I think there's a lot of work to do, informing and
Starting fires.
starting fires.
No, I think that we have to shift from the commodities model that you mentioned, which is a trap, and no one, farmers aren't going to make money in a commodities market. It's clear. We have to shift toward a model of a community and somehow transmit to the general public that we're all in this together. We're a community, and we have to help. The producers have to help the consumers, and consumers have to help producers, and the distributors are in there to help too. So, but this is a huge task. I don't know how we can do that. But this model, the crazy model we have right now, where we order, like I said, I was talking to someone last night, 15 different pieces of clothing, and they're delivered to our door. We try 14 on and try them all on, return 14. I mean, this is just insanity. So we have to somehow just convince people that we're a community, and our health and the environment depend on this community. It doesn't have to be geographically limited. It could be we're a community between the consumers in Germany and producers in Spain and Italy. But we're in it together.
I'm going to open to questions. ¿Quieres, Luis, decir algo?
I was just going to
Perdón.
add that.
That pause, like
of course there's. I would completely agree as a person that we need to start setting fires. Like the conversation is there. Like people know there's a problem, but who is willing to take the first step? Who's willing to sacrifice comfort? And then again, we start the blaming game. No, it's you. No, it's me. Oh, consumers. Oh, farmers. So I think farmers carry a heavy weight. And then a lot of farmers, and this is something that we forgot to mention, but a lot of farmers depend on the government, they farm because of the subsidies. So also, I think the ones that can have the biggest influence, where I think it's governments and companies, need to take the first step. They need to stop trying to think that, of course, there's a vote in each consumption that you do. There's something that individuals can do. But there's a bigger change that can come from, okay, you're not going to have this type of product because we as a company decided to support this other type of farming. There's where the change is going, because the consumer is not going to come and ask, oh, no, I want to have the other thing that was harming the planet. Because if you start putting it at the same price, then it's a thing of the companies. Like I think companies, and we need to work on that. We need to try to understand all the parties, but then assume responsibility and work with it. Of course, whatever it comes. As a person, yeah, I love the idea of, yeah, let's just start a fire. But then I think we need to be a little bit more strategic when coming to, let's not polarize and separate people that, okay, you are the ones that are taking care, but you don't mind, and you vegans and the others are devils. It's not about that. It's like, let's try to solve this together, but let's have a little bit of support and help from companies and governments. That's my point.
Thank you. Questions? Too early.
Thank you.
Thank you.